The best coverage of the top stories in sports. The Sports Wrap with Jason Page starts now.
Indeed it does on a Friday, and great to have you with us. Lots to do over the next 60 minutes, as there always is on this show. We'll be joined by Tino Pattigno, our NASCAR betting insider, previewing this weekend's race in Atlanta with Chase Briscoe coming off the win at the Poconos. We'll be joined by our friend Patrick McEnroe in London to preview Wimbledon, get some thoughts with him on the next couple of weeks and what it looks like there. Sam Yarnell will be here to talk baseball as we get ready to close the book on the MLB career of Wander Franco. Odds and ends, all of that fun stuff, but we started out in the NBA as we close the book on the NBA draft, and I thought we'd do something a little different today. We're starting the show with this guy, the great Robert Littal. I couldn't remember his name. He's so great. The great Robert Littal, the founder of Black Sports Online, hangs out with us to begin the program. And I wanted to start with you today because I was going through your social media feed, and I saw on X you had some very interesting comments, and you must have liked what you said because you pinned it to the top of your comments, which means you wanted to make sure I saw it and others saw it, where you were making this comparison between the NBA and the WNBA. And the way we're treating somebody like Cooper Flagg, who's supposed to be this, transcendent star coming into the league, versus the way we treated Caitlin Clark as she is coming into the league, or as she came into the league, and how there isn't all of this hullabaloo about, the fact that he's white, or all these different sorts of barriers and cultural arguments and race arguments, all these different things that are surrounding him that we saw with Caitlin Clark. And I saw this and I said, this is interesting. It made me think and ponder. And I said, but didn't we have those sorts of arguments already in the NBA? 40 years ago with somebody like, with Magic Johnson and Isaiah Thomas and Larry Bird. And when we had those sorts of discussions happening, but they were happening in real time as opposed to today where it all happens in that public square that is social media. Didn't we already have those arguments, but they were just held in different ways?
No, I disagree, because when the NBA got Magic Johnson and Larry Bird, they didn't fumble. When they got Michael Jordan, they didn't fumble. When they got Larry Bird, Patrick Ewing, they didn't fumble. When they got Shaq and Kobe, they didn't fumble. They knew what they had, and they made sure that layup was taken. The WNBA, on the other hand, had a layup. All they had to do was just lay it up. They didn't have to do really anything. Just lay it up. But they messed it up. They mumbled it. And it's still shocking to me to this day that you have a transcendent, a face of the league, someone that changed women's basketball. Me, you, a homeless person, anybody in the world could have took that situation and made it and did it better than what the WNBA did. So when I'm watching Cooper Flagg, someone who has a similar personality to Caitlin Clark, doesn't really do the social media, is not an activist, just real quiet, got his suit from JCPenney's, and he just is allowed to just come into a situation and play ball. And here's the thing, if he sucks, if he misses 10 threes, you know something? We're going to make fun of him. Centel's going to make fun of him. And you know what we're going to do? We're going to laugh and not going to say, oh my God, what are we doing? Oh, why are you being so mean? No, we're just going to go over to the next thing, because that's how sports works. And one day, maybe the WNBA will figure that out. You see what they say about Haley Van Leet? It's not just Caitlin Clark. We got people in the WNBA, coaches, ex-players. Oh, the only reason she was drafted is not because she played 5 years and 4 of those years of All-American ball. It's because she's a cute white girl that got a lot of social media. Who says that about their own league? Imagine me writing a story and say, something, Cooper Flagg, the only reason he was drafted number 1 is because he has 1 million Instagram followers and he's handsome.
Listen, the reality is there's a lot of people out there there's a lot less filter than ever really in America today. I mean, look at the case of the Kettle Marte thing that happened this week, where you have a fan just beyond the dugout, chastising him about his dead mother. I mean, we just live in a society today where people are less filtered than ever and saying stupid things. I'm wondering about the health of the NBA from this perspective, though. How many 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds just got drafted that are in prominent spots for teams that are supposed to be like, in big roles for their teams next year. I'm worried if I'm the league, because you can do all the teaching and off-season training and get these guys into a room and say, here are the pitfalls to try to avoid. Again, just thinking about myself at 18, 19 years old and handing millions of dollars to these guys. I'm worried just about the health and sanity of the league when you've got all these kids that are being infused into big roles for these teams, Robert.
Yeah, well, you see the Anthony Edwards situation where he's a very good player, and he has, 3 kids and 23 years old, and he's got telling people he wants to have an abortion. He's not going to be in the kids' life. Like, you don't want that, as for just an individual, just as a man. I'm assuming this is why they tried to do the one and done rule, to at least give it a year in college to get some maturity behind it. I think the kids that, as you see, who maybe had parents that were either NBA or played professional sports or played at least college ball, or have a little bit of a better head on their shoulders when they get into the league. I mean, the NFL makes you, wait 3 years to get in the league, and you still have a Justin Tucker. You still have these situations that come up simply just because you said none of us at 18, 19, 20, sometime at 30, don't really understand, life. And that's why when we get old and we say, when we were young, so why these old people always talking to us about stuff? And then we get old and say, I understand now, because I'm trying because I find myself talking to people more like, don't do this, please watch out for this, I did this, don't do that, it's a growing process if they actually listen or not.
You could compare it to guys in their 30s or, Justin Tucker, who we were talking about, all these stories that came out, which we'll actually get to in odds and ends. But I'm just worried about a league that is going to be so youth heavy now. And if anything, the league's going to pull back even more on that, because I think eventually they're just going to get rid of the one and done. And you're just going to have kids coming in out of high school.
You hope that it ends up like Oklahoma City and Indiana and maybe Boston, where these young players go to organizations and franchises, San Antonio, with good foundations in place, good people behind them. You worry when they go to LA and Miami and New York. And stuff, but now we're noticing a lot of these teams, the better teams in the NBA, are the smaller markets, and maybe a part of that is you got nothing to do but play ball in Oklahoma City.
Yeah, Ace Bailey wasn't thrilled about winding up in Salt Lake City. I can promise you that.
Nope, playing ball.
Nope. Robert Littal, founder of Black Sports Online. I appreciate you. We'll see you next week.
No problem.
We're coming back. Welcome back to this Friday edition of the show. Coming up in 10 minutes, Patrick McEnroe from London to preview Wimbledon. How you like them apples? The All England Tennis Club. Next week, that gets underway on Monday. Probably preliminary action over the weekend as well. Talk about some of the key matchups and the vibe over there with the ESPN and TNT tennis commentator. Sam Yarnell is here. Let's talk some baseball, Sam. Wander Franco, we finally learned his fate after what felt like an eternity of waiting. I mean, I think the news, I think, he's been gone, a couple of years, because it happened around the All-Star break last year. It's been about 2 years since Wander Franco played in the major leagues. And we learned his fate yesterday from a court in the Dominican Republic. A 2-year suspended sentence for Wander Franco on sexual abuse, assault, whatever they want to call it, charges stemming from allegations of him when he was 21 with a 14-year-old. It's all very seedy. The mother basically pimping out the daughter to him. The mother getting 10 years in prison. I'm still trying to understand how this happens. The mother gets 10 years for pimping out the daughter, and Wander Franco gets 2 years for committing the acts. I don't know. Look, and I say this as a victim of sexual assault as a child. And this, I'm not like breaking news here. So for people who are like, oh my God, Jason revealed. I revealed this years ago. as somebody who's gone through this, I can't understand how the justice system works, but this is the Dominican Republic justice system, so I even understand it less. He gets a 2-year suspended sentence. Take all that as hard as it is and put it aside for a second. Major League Baseball is still conducting its own investigation, Sam, which you would have to imagine would close fairly soon. I don't know how he ever gets a work visa to return to the United States with that on his record. You'd have to think this effectively ends the Major League Baseball career of Wander Franco, doesn't it?
Well, he would have to get a work visa after getting removed from the commissioner's exempt list. So, like, it's never going to happen. No, it's not even like this story to me is more just a pop culture story at this point than it is a sports story, because the guy has no chance of ever being a professional athlete in the United States of America again. Maybe he'll, after these 2 years are up, stay in the Dominican Republic and play there. Maybe he'll, go to Mexico. There's a big league in Mexico. Maybe he'll even go to Japan. There's obviously big leagues in Japan and Korea. But there is no shot that this guy's going to play Major League Baseball ever again.
Yeah, and I don't even think Japan and Korea are going to welcome him there. And
probably.
And I don't even want to call it a cautionary tale, because clearly there is, this isn't a gun charge or a domestic violence dispute or something like this. This is something completely different when you are of a mindset to be an adult, even a young adult, as Wander Franco was when all this took place, to have sexual relations with somebody that age. There's something different going on in the brain of somebody. It's just wired differently. I don't even want to try to try and dissect all that. And you hope he gets the help he needs, and whatever winds up becoming of his life. And, in all of this, try to remember that there was a 14-year-old victim in this being pimped out by her mother. It's just an awful story all the way around. And I guess that kind of closes the book on Wander Franco. So we'll close the book on it as well. Sam, no shock. Shohei Ohtani, Aaron Judge, top vote getters when we talk about the All-Star game. I will say this. In the news this week of Ronald Acuna Jr. Announcing he's going to take part in the All-Star game, just as I shake my head that for all these years, LeBron James never did the NBA All-Star game, weekend slam dunk contest. And I know Aaron Judge has done the home run derby earlier in his career. Aaron Judge should be doing the home run derby every year. It's one game. You get the whole week off. Do the stupid home run derby. I mean, it's one night. Why Aaron Judge isn't doing the home run derby is beyond me.
Yeah, I was just going to look really quickly. I mean, credit to the Yankee fans, because in the last 48 hours before they announced the first round of All-Star voting, the fan voting section of it ended, Aaron Judge was not in the lead. Cal Raleigh was the leading vote getter in the American League until like 2 days ago. And Aaron Judge ended up winning by more than 1 million votes. So credit to the Yankees fans for getting on their phone over the course of the last 3 days. But yeah, no surprise, obviously there. Listen, the All-Star game, the fan voting section of it, I mean, you go on Twitter and look. There are about a bazillion different reasons why we got to get rid of this whole fan voting thing. And we got to change it to the way we vote on awards if we want the All-Star game to mean anything. Your point about Aaron Judge is a completely valid one. That is what is good for the sport of baseball, right? Think about back in the day when we had, the guys chasing the home run record every year. Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa, both participated in home run derbies, right? Josh Hamilton, one of the most famous home run derbies of all time in the midst of one of the most famous comeback seasons of all time, right? So there are unique moments that come out of the home run derby, Jason, and it's sad to see that Aaron Judge, who a lot of people want to push as the face of Major League Baseball, won't participate in an event that should truly grow the game.
Yeah, it should. What else sticks out to you right now in baseball, Sam?
Oh, I mean, there's so much going on around the world of baseball, Jason.
In a minute.
Page. What'd you say?
I said in a minute.
In a minute, I don't know if I could fit everything in, but we did get news yesterday while we were doing the show that Bobby Witt Jr. is going to be on Team USA for the World Baseball Classic coming up in about 7 months. So right now, that team consists of Paul Skeens, Aaron Judge, and Bobby Witt Jr. That team is going to be so fun to watch. I cannot wait for the World Baseball Classic to come in Miami in, only about 8 short months right now. So that's something I'm really looking forward to. Some great news we got yesterday. Some bad news we got yesterday to finish it off. Griffin Canning, an Achilles injury. He's going down for a while. That Mets team, they're gasping for air right now.
Yeah, that rotation is an absolute mess. And say this, the timing of that World Baseball Classic is just spectacular for the game right now. When you look at the TV ratings growth, you see ballparks filled, and you're going to get that at the tail end of this year, early next year. The timing couldn't be better for Major League Baseball. They're stepping in it right now. There's no getting around it. We're coming back. Patrick McEnroe joins us next. Welcome back to this Friday edition of Sports Wrap. Let's talk Wimbledon. And if we're doing that, you know who's on the show with us. It could only be this guy.
Gotta love it.
Yeah. Patrick McEnroe joins us from London.
Yep, just settling in. Jason got here, took the day flight, which was nice. So I left early morning, New York time, got in early evening, London time. So that was a pretty good move. Normally you fly overnight, so you kind of get jet lag. But London's the only place you can actually fly from New York during the day. So I went with that, feeling good, had a good workout today. Got draws just came out, so we're locked and loaded, baby.
All right. And you said you're overlooking some river or something like that from your hotel?
This little river called the Thames. You may have heard of it.
Yeah.
I've heard of it. I'm outside of London, like kind of halfway between London, the city, and Wimbledon, the village. So staying at a hotel here that I started doing a few years ago during COVID. Normally, most of the players and the media people stay out in the Wimbledon village, which is a solid 45, 50-minute drive from the city. So over the years, certainly when I was playing way back in the day, we used to stay in the city and go back and forth from London. So over time, it's become like this cottage industry for the people that live in the area to rent their houses or apartments, whatever. And I did that for many years, which was nice because you can walk to the club and back. But I've kind of got used to this groove of being about 15, 20-minute cab ride away, and I can have my own room. I can have my own, the AC, when you rent the place, you never know if anything's going to work. So it's kind of it's charming, but it's not always, particularly predictable. And then, now I got the gym at the hotel, so I kind of like this routine. It's working out well.
All right. I pity you. You sound like you've got it so terrible over there for the next 2 weeks covering Wimbledon. Let's talk about the men's side because I want to begin there because, look, there's a lot of thought that this could be the last time we see Novak Djokovic at the All England Tennis Club, and I want to get your thoughts on that coming off the French Open where you and I discussed, he put it all out there. He couldn't have played better, and he gets bounced in the semis in straights. Is there this idea that Wimbledon, if he doesn't make either a deep run or win this thing, that this will be his final Wimbledon?
I think it's possible, Jason. The truth of the matter is I don't think he knows.
What's the vibe like amongst the fans there? Is there a buzz? I know you've only been there a short time, but what is the buzz?
I think the buzz is that it's definitely possible. And I think that when he walked off the court the way he did in Paris, sort of stopping, looking to the crowd, kissing the court, I think that's certainly when it hit me that, okay, he may be starting to think about it. Now, as you said, if he can win it, which I think is possible, I don't think it's likely, but I think it's more possible here than it was in Paris. And it's probably more possible here than it is anywhere else, even in New York or even Australia, where he's dominated over the years because of the nature of the surface. And I got a little video of him practicing yesterday on center court with Alcaraz, which is quite cool and interesting. They normally didn't let the players play at all on the courts before the tournament begins. They've adjusted that over the years to get a little bit of play on the court. So that it's not totally green, and you've seen players get injured, which can often happen the first few days of the tournament. So, look, I think I don't think he knows, but I think if he gets to the point, Jason, where he doesn't think he can win one of these, then he says no more. And could that happen by the end of this year? I think it could, because I'm not sure that he can beat both Sinner and Alcaraz in best of 5. Maybe he could beat one of them. And if there's a place where he has got the best chance to do it, I would say it would be here on the grass of the All England Club.
We got an amazing final between Sinner and Alcaraz at the French. What is the potential potholes in the road that get us to a final between those two again here outside of Djokovic?
Outside of Djokovic, I would say, Sinner's got a pretty tough draw as it just came out. Now, he's on the same half of the draw as Djokovic, Jason. So, but he's got some other players potentially leading into even playing Djokovic in the quarters. Tommy Paulson is in his sections. Ben Shelton, Musetti, all those guys are in that quarter. So all those guys are pretty dangerous on grass. I mean,
how does Shelton translate to the grass?
Not well yet. Not well yet. Hasn't looked that good so far. A lot of people just think, oh, he's got a big serve, a big game. He should be good on grass.
Right.
Wrong. No, wrong, because he doesn't return well. He doesn't move that great on the grass. And he doesn't, the most important thing is he doesn't have that kind of feel with the hands, Jason, where you can take a ball off the bounce. You can play a little slice. He needs time to hit his shots, his big shots. And when he's got time, he can take that big windup, and he's very athletic. But he's not great with the racket, controlling the head of the racket. That's not his expertise. So he could improve that. But thus far, he hasn't played well on grass at all. The other two guys, Tommy Paul, Taylor Fritz, the other two top 10 American guys, have played much better on grass. They move well. Fritz has very compact strokes. Tommy Paul's a great mover, great counterpuncher. So those are, I think, a couple of the guys that could upset the apple cart other than Djokovic, American guys. And then you've got, obviously, a big hitter like Fonseca, Menchik, who won in Miami. Those guys are kind of floating around out there. But I think a good chance for the American guys to come through and maybe get to a semi, maybe even a final.
Give me a couple of early round matchups you like on the men's side, Patrick.
Well, Fritz is taking on Pechi Pericard. He's a 6'8", 6'9" guy from France who's got a monster serve. So that's very dangerous. Djokovic has Alexander Muller, who's pretty good, actually, and moves well. And I think it'll be a pretty good grass court match. I think, Novak does everything a little bit better. Sinner's got a pretty routine first round against another Italian, Nardi. But again, his draw gets more interesting as we go. And probably the most fun match is Alcaraz against the Italian Fognini. Fabio Fognini, who's a former top 10 player, who's going to get absolutely mauled by Alcaraz. But it's going to be entertaining. He's going to go out there. He's going to have a smile on his face. He's sort of at the end of his run. He's in his late 30s. He's got two young kids at home. So I don't expect to see him playing that much more. And then a couple other guys, at least to look out for. Zverev is the 3 seed. Can he make a push? He's played pretty well in some of the tune-up tournaments. So you would think, okay, Medvedev.
Zverev's in Alcaraz's side of the draw, right?
He's in Alcaraz's side, exactly. So it's hard to imagine anyone being able to upset Alcaraz on his way. The only guys I think that can beat him would be either Sinner or Djokovic.
I want to talk about the women's side because we had a great French Open women's final at Roland Garros between Gauff and Sabalenka. And they are the 1 and 2 seeds here, so it's going to be a lot of fun to see potentially those two match up in a Wimbledon women's final. What could prevent that from happening? We'll ask that of Patrick McEnroe when we come back on Sports Wrap. One more segment with the great Patrick McEnroe of ESPN. Does a great job on the tennis commentary, also with TNT. You could also catch his Sirius XM Mad Dog radio show.
Thank you, sir. By the way, I do, before we get to the women, I do want to mention one guy I should have mentioned. That's Jack Draper, the 4 seed. He's in the same quarter of the draw as Djokovic. So they could meet in the quarterfinals. But he's a guy, the crowd's going to be behind him. He's had an unbelievable year. That's why he's ranked 4 in the world. Including winning in Indian Wells. So he's lefty, monster serve. moves well, and that would be a very interesting matchup to see him take on Djokovic if that happened in the quarterfinals. Bublik, who also won one of the tournaments on grass, who remember had a good run at the French, he's in that section of the draw as well. So there's some interesting scenarios happening in that part of the draw.
It just blows my mind, though, that how different the level of tennis is. When you talk about the guys that you're mentioning there, and then you get to Djokovic, Sinner, Alcaraz, the level, the step up in class.
That's the uniqueness of the individual sport of tennis. And if you put any of those guys that I mentioned, Fritz, Draper, Tiafoe, in any other sport, right, they'd be like global superstars. But because they're in tennis, and it's like, well, can you beat those big guys? That's the question, I get asked all the time. Can an American man win a major?
Through. Yeah.
And the answer at that point is, at this moment, is it was for a moment, no, there's the big three. Now there's the big two.
Let's talk about the women's side of the draw. We obviously were entertained by Gauff and Sabalenka at Roland Garros in the women's final. When you stack up this women's draw, what stands out to you in the way it lays out?
I think it's pretty darn good. I mean, I'm just looking at the possible round of 16 matchups. I mean, Sabalenka, Svitolina, Keys, Badosa, Paulini, Anisimova. Then you go to the bottom, Gauff, Kasatkina, Swiatek, Rybakina. I mean, there's some darn good matchups, and I think the reason I mentioned most of them is because I think it's pretty spread out. It's not like the men where you got the top two. Yes, Sabalenka and Gauff are clearly 1 and 2, but they're not clearly that step above you just talked about, Jason. They're not at that level compared to those other women. So Mira Andreeva, the 7 seed, who also won out in Indian Wells. She's a teenager. You got Pegula, you got Navarro. So there's a lot of interesting, ways this could go. I could see any one of 10, 12 players, possibly winning Wimbledon. I think Sabalenka, though, does go in as a favorite, but she's not a huge favorite because of the surface. She's played well there, but she's never played well enough to get to a final. Keys is a big hitter, but, a little bit like Ben Shelton, where she doesn't, kind of take the ball early that well. She needs a little more time. I think Coco Gauff definitely can win Wimbledon. I mean, she's got the speed. She's got the ability to, play a little slice. She's not amazing coming forward, but she's decent coming to the net. You don't really need to come to the net a ton these days to win on grass. So I think, I'm not going to say it's wide open, but it's pretty darn open on the women's side. As I said, there's way more possibilities of women winning this Wimbledon title than men.
Is there a potential for Gauff, with the win at the French? We obviously know what she did, a while back now at the U.S. Open. I mean, are we talking about a time where she can go and run off, winning, two or three of these things? Is she at that point consistency wise where she is capable of that?
I think she's capable, but I don't think she's at that point. She's nowhere near where Serena was, and that we shouldn't be comparing her. I shouldn't compare her to Serena because she's American, she's young, and she's won 2 majors. So that's sort of what you do. But I think she's still, she doesn't blow people out consistently, especially in big men. Serena could go out there in the finals of Wimbledon, as we saw countless, beat Sharapova 0-1 in 50 minutes, right? That I don't think Gauff has that type of game, has that type of aura. She's an unbelievable competitor. She's a battler. She's a grinder, as we saw, particularly in Paris, coming back to win that match. But I don't think she can just step out there and just, start blowing people away the way you need to do, I think, if you're going to win 2-3 in a year. That being said, can she grind her way to winning another title, whether it's here in New York? Absolutely. But I think, she doesn't go into those, if she's playing Rybakina or Swiatek, who is seeded to play in the quarters, she's maybe a slight favorite, maybe even an underdog against one of the, Swiatek actually looks like she's playing well on grass. She's just in the finals of one of the tune-up tournaments. Rybakina has won Wimbledon before. I mean, she'd probably be a slight favorite against Coco on a grass court because of her power game. So Pegula, Muhova, she'd probably be the favorite against them. Would she be the favorite against Sabalenka if they played in the final? Probably not.
I've only got about 45 seconds. Whatever happened to Naomi Osaka? I know she's in the draw here. Whatever happened to her?
I think that, the long layoff she took for her own personal reasons and then coming back, after having a child, she's done pretty well. but, things were so fine-tuned for her when she won those 4 majors. Remember, it was sort of at a weird time, too. Serena was on the way out. She won 2 at the Open, 2 at Australia, so she's very good on hard court. But we talked about the game elevating, right, Jason, and also the game improving with Sinner and Alcaraz especially. Well, the women's game's improved overall. The players are just better. Osaka used to be like she's hitting the ball huge. Now she's hitting the ball like 90% of the rest of the players in the top 20 in the world. So if you don't have the great speed and she hits the ball well, but not better than the players I just named you, 5 of the 6 women in the world. They hit the ball just as well as she does off the ground, and they move better.
Patrick McEnroe, catch him over the next couple of weeks on the Wimbledon coverage over on ESPN. Catch him on SiriusXM Mad Dog Radio, 7 a.m. Eastern on Saturday mornings. Also on the SiriusXM radio app as well. My friend, I always appreciate you. Enjoy the next couple of weeks over there. We'll talk to you soon.
You got it, Jason. Thanks for having me as always.
We're coming back on this Friday edition of Sports Wrap. Some NASCAR with Tino next. Coming up in 10 minutes, odds and ends. Is it the end for one NFL kicker who's had an illustrious career? Is it the end of the Indiana Fever when it's talking about the WNBA playoffs? Playoffs? Got to talk about that for a moment. Time to talk some NASCAR on this Friday edition of the show. And to do that, we bring in our good friend, Tino Pattigno, our NASCAR betting insider, SiriusXM NASCAR Radio. You can catch him on the weekends, also over on Tubi, where he hangs out with us on Fridays, though, to talk NASCAR. And before we get into this weekend's race, because Monday was so insane, we didn't have a chance to do our NASCAR recap that we would typically do. You were at the Poconos, so I want to ask you about what took place with Chase Briscoe getting the win. And in particular, one thing, because there was something that he was talking about after the race, and I heard some conversation about it, and it was almost like it was, instead of excitement about the win, it was almost relief about getting a win, where he almost said he couldn't really even enjoy this victory at Poconos, Tino, where he almost said he couldn't even enjoy this win because there was so much anxiety about getting into the playoffs because of the pressures put on him this season. I thought that was really interesting.
I think it was interesting to me, too, because this is someone where it's his first win with Joe Gibbs Racing. You expect to sort of, when you have that breakthrough moment, just feel all the enjoyment from that. But it does make sense, right? Because he's not an underdog anymore. This is a driver that, came up, started working for Stewart Haas Racing and continued to build his career there in the Xfinity Series. He was a really strong driver from that standpoint, and he won a couple races in the Cup Series, but everyone expected this to be a really quick partnership with him and Joe Gibbs Racing in his first season with them this year, just to start knocking off wins. And when that didn't happen, I think, like Chase Briscoe mentioned, that's where the anxiety, the pressures all started to build up. Say, hey, wait a second, I'm racing for one of the best premier teams in the Cup garage right now. I'm not looking like an underdog right now. I need to go out and win races, and that should be expected of him. So I think now that he's got that first win, like you said, out and off of his belt, that off of his back, he can sort of enjoy the rest of the season because he's locked into the playoffs, we can expect, and we can also see him contending for more wins. And I think those following wins after he's gotten that first breakthrough one can sort of make him feel more excitement from them.
And Tino, with his win, we're talking about a playoff bubble that gets a little smaller, and guys are getting pushed around in this playoff bubble. Who's the big loser off of Briscoe entering that playoff bubble now?
Oh, man. Well, there's 3 of them. Chris Buescher, Bubba Wallace, and Alex Bowman, all losers after we see something like that. SVG was the first driver to do it a couple weeks ago in terms of surprise winners, but we can expect that. Same thing with Chase Briscoe there. He was already looking like he was going to be in the playoffs itself, but now to get that secured spot, we only see 2 drivers, Chase Elliott and Tyler Reddick. Both don't have wins as of now, but they're 100 points plus to the cut line. So unless we get 6 extra winners, we're going to see those drivers in the playoffs. Well, Chris Buescher, Bubba Wallace, Alex Bowman are all in a tough spot right now because unless they win, pointing your way and getting those stage points, as we commended Bubba Wallace for doing earlier this year, because, hey, that was what has been working. Well, not unless there's more winners than there are playoff drivers with points, right? So I think for those guys, they're going to have to step up. Alex Bowman especially. You cannot miss the playoffs if you're Alex Bowman and racing for Hendrick Motorsports. You know, he's had injuries in the past. That's sort of what has derailed his seasons and points penalties too. But so far this year, they've just ran into some bad luck, some bad wrecks, and it's put him now plus 20 to the good. And with these few races coming up, Atlanta, Chicago, a bunch of wild cards in the mix, Daytona obviously right before the playoffs start, I believe there will be more new winners in this one.
Ryan Blaney is your favorite this weekend at the Quaker State 400 in Atlanta at plus 850. Joey Logano at plus 950 over on FanDuel. Austin Cindric at 10-1. Kyle Busch at 11-1. I thought that number kind of piqued my curiosity. Why the love for Kyle Busch here?
Oh, well, because he's been really strong at this racetrack. One thing I wanted to mention, too, before I get right back to Kyle Busch here. All three of those drivers you mentioned, the favorites, Team Penske. So that goes to show how strong they race, not only at super speedways, but at Atlanta itself. Ryan Blaney in the last 5 Atlanta races, a 5.2 average finish. And now we circle back because the next driver with a 6.4, Kyle Busch. So that's where I think the love is coming for Kyle Busch. This could be his chance to lock himself into the NASCAR playoffs. Another driver that is below the cut line that we know it's Kyle Busch, and I think we're going to have to see him win. Right now he's minus 63. I think unless you're Brian Preece at minus 20, I don't think we see a scenario where drivers can point their way in anymore. And we just talked about how the drivers with the points above the cut line are at risk as well when these new drivers start winning. So Kyle Busch, to me, has a really strong shot to get it done at Atlanta. He's finished up there, top 3, top 5 recently here too.
All right, when you look at it here in the final minute, who do you like this week? And give me some dark horses.
Well, you mentioned the favorites in Ryan Blaney, Joey Logano, Team Penske. I feel like out of those 3 Penske drivers, I'd have to go with Ryan Blaney. I mentioned his, best average finishing position out of all drivers. He doesn't have a win yet at this track, but when you watch him race here, he can go from the back to the front with ease, make the aggressive moves. One name that I'll throw out there that most people may be shocked at is Kyle Larson, because Kyle Larson is not known for his super speedway racing. He's just very aggressive and it gets him into trouble. But in this race, when we saw just earlier on this season, he was in that top 3 photo finish with Christopher Bell and Carson Hocevar. Carson Hocevar is another guy we need to take a look at in terms of an underdog here. If he wants to get into playoffs, he can do it. And how about Chris Buescher? 22-1 right now. I like those odds for Chris Buescher in this one too.
Tino Pattigno, ladies and gentlemen. Watch him over on Tubi, Sirius XM NASCAR Radio this weekend with his betting insider picks after we see where everybody lines up for this weekend's race in Atlanta. Thank you, my friend. We'll catch up with you next week.
Thank you.
Odds and Ends wraps it up next. All right, just about time to put the wraps on this baby for a Friday. Don't forget, SportsWrap Weekends. Available on many of these same affiliates. Check your local listings for time and schedule if it is not. It's a 30-minute wrap-up edition of everything we did throughout the week. Sometimes we have a little extra bonus nugget or two there. SportsWrap with Jason Page, the podcast. If you have not checked it out yet, it is an audio version of the very same show we do on television every day. It is available Monday through Friday on all your favorite podcasting platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube Podcasts, and more. Go and subscribe today. It is free, commercial-free as well. Go and get it. In addition to being on over 220 affiliates around the U.S. and Canada, and more coming, by the way, some exciting announcements on that, we'll be on in Tampa starting July 1st, WXPX television, Ion Television, in Tampa with both the weekday and weekend shows. So if you have a friend in Tampa, call them, tell them we'll be on there on weekdays and weekends starting July 1st. I just found out yesterday, Sam, you're going to get a kick out of this. Starting today, we're on in Barbados. I'm not joking. Carib Vision in Barbados carrying both the weekday and weekend show. We are truly an international show. So if you're going to the islands, you could watch us there. You're like, I can't get away. I got to see Jason and Sam. There you go. You can watch us. You can watch us in Barbados. I knew you'd get a kick out of that. You can watch us also on Spotify, Monday through Friday, video version of the show there, commercial free, and on our Sports Wrap with Jason Page YouTube channel. Go and check that out as well. Sports Wrap with Jason Page YouTube channel. Sports Wrap shorts available there as well. Clips from the show. It's great. Go and subscribe today. It's free. Without any further delay, ladies and gentlemen, time for some odds and ends. Odds and ends, another game without Caitlin Clark and a loss for the Indiana Fever last night at home in front of a sellout crowd at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. They get clobbered in the fourth quarter by the LA Sparks en route to a loss at home. They are a game under 500. And we talked about it yesterday on the show, Sam. You know, the idea of how all this is impacting Caitlin Clark's chances of potentially winning an MVP. And look, I mean, we've got 25 games left essentially in the regular season here in the WNBA. You got to kind of be worried a little bit about the Indiana Fever maybe making the playoffs at this point.
I don't know if I'd be willing to go that far, Jason. I was thinking further about it after we did the show yesterday, and I was looking more at the Fever's schedule, and I didn't realize they were on the first game of a back-to-back, the second of which was in Dallas against Paige Beckers and the Wings. So I think they were just getting Caitlin rested by not playing her last night, and I think that she'll be back tonight in Dallas, and hopefully that'll be a fun game to watch between her and Paige. But you know, this is a Fever team that was so successful, and I'm not going to say that they're all of a sudden not because they lost one game. They have been so successful without Caitlin Clark this season that I'm not worried about their playoff chances. And in terms of the MVP race, listen, Napheesa Collier has been great, and I don't want to take anything away from her, but I'm not going to count out Caitlin Clark from that race just yet. I don't think that Napheesa Collier is going to all of a sudden stop scoring the way that she is, because truly right now she probably is the most effective scorer in the W. But I think Caitlin could close that gap pretty quickly, and I think it starts tonight in Dallas with a huge game that everyone will be watching against Paige and the Wings. Yeah,
I can't wait. That's must-watch TV on a Friday night in the WNBA. Who would have ever thought we'd be saying that just a few years ago? Odds and ends, Sam Yarnell. Is it or is it not the end of the career of Justin Tucker? A 10-game suspension for him from the NFL. Released earlier this year by the Baltimore Ravens, coming off an awful season, one of the best kickers in NFL history. Will somebody sign Justin Tucker, Sam Yarnell?
Well, I believe since he was released before the suspension was brought down on him, that the suspension begins once he signs with a new team.
No, I thought they said it. I thought it was the opposite. I thought they said that he could serve the suspension while released. I thought it was actually the opposite. Free agent.
It doesn't change my answer. Nope, guy's career's over. We talked about his career being over, Jason, before we knew these allegations were a thing. If you'll remember back to like October, November, when he couldn't make a kick when he needed to. And that's the end for kickers. He doesn't have that kind of oomph behind him anymore. He's probably going to be a Hall of Famer. I mean, maybe now he might not be. So yeah, no, I don't think that he will ever play another snap in the NFL. I don't think he will ever kick another football in the NFL. This is very clearly, as it should be, the end of Justin Tucker.
He's 35 years old, accused of sexual misconduct by 16 massage therapists from 8 high-end spas and wellness centers in the Baltimore area. That according to the Baltimore Banner. Yes, he can, and I've confirmed he can serve this while as a free agent. I'm going to say somebody does sign him. I'm going to say somebody out there is desperate during the season. A kicker goes down with an injury. Justin Tucker will get a phone call and will wind up playing. I don't think he should, but he will.
Here's the thing. not necessarily the same way, but it's the same reason that Colin Kaepernick doesn't get a job, right? No one wants the media baggage that comes with signing the player at this point. And when there's Anders Carlson on the free agent market who's just as good, they're going to sign him over Justin Tucker.
I know it's different also, but Deshaun Watson got an opportunity and there was a lot more there. Just saying. It's going to do it for us. We got to go. We'll see you all back here on Monday.